I am surrounded by hummingbirds. Oh, hello there. See the car? Know what it is? You know, back in the 70s, this would have been called a sedan, or it would have been called a hatchback, or it might have even been called a station wagon. But now this is 2025 model year, and it's called a sport utility vehicle, an SUV. Some would say it's a crossover, but it's not crossing anything, it's just sitting there. But this is the 2025 Genesis GV70 3.5T four-wheel drive. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, it means you got your twin turbo engine. It means you got a beautiful, beautiful sculpted exterior. You have a very roomy, luxurious interior. And believe it or not, you actually have some sporty utility. Want to learn more? Please come with me. Genesis. You know, it's an amazing thing. There were some people that said, you know, Hyundai's crazy to come out with a premium label and a whole line of cars that is a luxury lineup. They're crazy, they said. It'll never work, they said. Well, they were wrong about pretty much everything. And this is the latest version, our 2025 version of a gimbal that's not behaving itself. Of a really nice, very swoopy, very comfortable, very unique sport utility vehicle. The GV70 is a terrific machine. It has all kinds of great things going for it. Mainly the fact that it works good as a whole package. Oh, I know what the problem is. Hang on. Whoa! Whoa! There we go. See how much better that is? Okay. I'm standing out in the sun, which I can't do. I'm taking this medication right now that the sun will literally kill me like a vampire. But the car has been a marvel in so many different ways. I want to say this is the third one I've tested. I think it might just be the second over the years. But I've always really liked it, and I've always liked the size. The size is because, you know, there's a GV60 and a GV80, but the 70, now the 70, it seems to be the right size. And what do I mean by that? Hang on, I'm gonna back up here. I'm gonna come over here, get my information. There, I have my information now. What's the wheelbase? What's the wheelbase? Wheelbase is very important. 113.2 inches is your wheelbase, which seems to work perfect in this application. I'm real fond of that because it enhances everything. It enhances the way they've laid the chassis out. It has great stability, but it's also a good size in terms of long enough wheelbase to give you some good back seat room. Right now, having driven this for about 70 miles, I think is about what I've driven it, it has that same Genesis quality that you get with every other car that has the Genesis brand. And it's a very solid feeling, carefully constructed, excellent workmanship type of vehicle. They're not cheap, and it is definitely a premium vehicle. Yep, no question. But I mean, let's be honest, it's a beautiful car. But you gotta understand, from year to year, they tend to do some tweaks that a lot of times they don't even mention. But if they find anything over the course of the previous models and the previous versions of the engine that they feel like they could improve on, well, excuse me, when it comes time to create a new year model, they'll start to incorporate this stuff very quietly. So in other words, you may have an engine that is slightly more refined, or a transmission that shifts a little bit smoother, even though it's the same. In this case, it's an 8-speed automatic transmission, and it doesn't have an all-wheel drive system. So there may be there's constant, since everything's being run by all kinds of electronic wizardry now, there's always upgrades to the various software that runs all the components of the car. So that's one of the most interesting aspects. Oh, well, the sun went away. Okay. That's one of the most interesting aspects of this vehicle, is the fantastic smoothness, integration, all the kinds of things that you really want in your luxury sport utility vehicle. And as you can see, it's a beautiful car. And it also, I look at this and I think, I am smooth and aerodynamic. And does that mean it's going to be a fuel economy king? Well, not exactly, but it's not going to be a guzzler either. I mean, yes, we are constantly changing over to hybrids and full electrics, absolutely. And Genesis is at the forefront of the, do they even have a hybrid? They go full electric. It's either gas or it's electric. But they are really, really smart in how they're developing these chassis, in that they can adapt either powertrain, a internal combustion engine, or a full electric without any problems at all. So again, there's that beautiful 113-inch wheelbase, just the right size, right? Okay, so we've got our GV70 3.5T all-wheel drive, sport, prestige maybe, I don't know. It's in front of us. What is the most important thing to a lot of you motorheads out there? That's right, the motor. So let's take a look, shall we? And there she is. There she is. Here's our 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 engine. And as you can see, this is, I love it when I get a new vehicle that's like super new. It hasn't been out doing fleet duty for very long. And it's just so beautifully clean. Or who knows, this is a Genesis. They may have a special spray that they spray over the engine that keeps all the dirt and bugs and all that other stuff off of there. But anyway, as you can see, we have a pretty sophisticated intake system, where we have our cold air that comes in from the atmosphere, the air in here. And there's arrows everywhere to help you out, by the way. Here's an arrow, and it goes into this air box right here, and this air box right here, which I do believe that's where our filters are. So they each have their own individual air filter. I believe that's, I could take it apart and look at it. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I won't. But the fact that it goes through the air cleaner, and then it drops down, both of these drop down into two different areas, actually. But the intake system is such that when you have dual turbochargers, you pretty much, and with a V6 where you have two cylinder banks, it makes all the sense in the world to just give them each their own everything. Their own air supply system, their own filtration for their own air supply system, their own intercooler to cool the compressed air from the turbocharger. So everything is just kept separate, equal, and that way each turbocharger is happy, because everything is proprietary for that particular turbocharger. And as you can see, very straightforward layout. It is not a transversely mounted engine, I don't think, unless I'm missing my guess. No, it is a longitudinally mounted. So we got 3 and 3 cylinders like that. Now, what's our numbers here? Well, 375 horsepower at 5,800 RPM. And here is the thing that makes the turbocharging so much fun. Torque, 391 pounds of feet, anywhere from 1,300 RPM all the way up to 4,500 RPM. That's a nice broad spread of low-end power. And it feels that way too. I mean, one of the nice things about this kind of turbocharging is it makes the V6 feel more like a V8 in terms of its power delivery. And that makes me happy, because we're all about the power delivery. As you can also see, we have a very logically arrayed engine compartment. Everything's very, very easy to get to. What I don't see right off, oh, there it is. Is that the oil or the, I don't know if that's oil or that's gotta be oil. Is that oil? Yeah, probably. Speaking of which, what does it say anywhere? Anywhere? No, I don't see any stickers or placards anywhere that tells you what the viscosity is. It's probably, I'm gonna go on a wild, I'm saying 0.20. That might not even be close to right. But regardless, one thing I have noticed about these Hyundai slash Genesis turbocharged engines is they don't have ridiculous oil requirements in terms of a very strange viscosity that is not readily available. They're usually quite readily available. So, where are the intercoolers? They're your whole area here. If you can look behind there, you can see the radiator. You can also see we have a slat system, which is no doubt controlled by the sensors that determine that tell you what kind of engine temperature you're working with, and those same sensors will close off some of this ventilation in the need to warm up the engine as quickly as possible, or to keep it warm if you're like driving around and it's 5 below zero. Something which is much easier to do with this car than it is with an electrically powered one. And the intercoolers are all the way down there. See them there? They are. They're underneath there for your pleasure. Right there. So this is a real straightforward, complex engine. And that's what we want. If you are going to have a really complex powertrain that gets a whole lot of power out of a very small displacement, you want it to be as straightforward as they can do it, and I think they do a very, very good job of that. It's also very elegantly arranged, I would say, and it looks like, again, attention to detail. They actually detail the front of the engine and the rear of the engine and the middle of the engine. So you can, so it kind of fits in with the entire vehicle. Everything is well thought out. This is the thing with Genesis. You get the feeling that they thought out everything very carefully and want to maintain a high standard of sophistication, but overall refinement. Now, this is interesting. This is aluminum. And this is a brace that goes from the spring tower up to another something underneath here. But these two spring tower supports are just chassis stiffeners. And I always have a real dubious feeling about them, because I was saying, well, if everything's engineered properly, you wouldn't need anything to add a little stiffness. But what happens is they are doing everything they can to keep the overall curb weight down, which incidentally, what is the overall curb weight? 4,500 pounds. So there's different things, and there's also places where you want more flex in a chassis and less. And that's a place they want less flex, so that's why they put in those additional aluminum gadgets, bars, things. Anyway, beautiful, isn't it? I could just gaze at this engine for days. It's beautiful. And of course we do have it connected to our 8-speed automatic transmission and our all-wheel drive system. And we'll talk more about that when I get in the interior of the car, how you engage everything and how the system works, maybe, if I remember. But this is a beautiful engine. So the name is Michelin. You know, I've also heard people call them Michelins. Huh, how weird is that? I always call them Michelins. But anyway, our GV70 is equipped with very, very large wheels. As you can see, what size are those? Can you look at it and just tell what size it is? Because you're extremely knowledgeable about such things. Can you do that? Well, I'm telling you, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to read what it is. I'm going to say these are 20 inches because they look so vast, and the amount of surface that you have from here to here is so small. Therefore, I'm saying 20 inch wheels. Now, where's the size? 225. I lie. 21 inch. Boy, that's a big, big wheel for a medium-sized car. Impressive, no? But these are very nice Primacy Tour AS tires from Michelin, and they're your general year-round, all-season tires. They're not going to get you out of any deep anything, even snow, but for most driving applications, they're going to do a terrific job for you. If I remember right, these front rotors on these beautiful brakes are about 14.2 inches, about an inch bigger than if you get this car with a smaller engine, which I believe is a 2.5 liter inline 4 turbo. So that's a whole lot of braking capacity. And look at the size of the caliper. Can you see it in there? It says Genesis on it. Massive, massive brakes, and they are very, very easy to modulate, but you have all that braking power should you need it. And it can haul down this 4,500 pound car in a hurry if necessary. All right, so as we head to the aft section, I'm going to share something that you need to know if you're a Genesis guy. I love how they've done that. Isn't that nice? It's a very hatchback sculpty thing, and yet it's very functional. If you need to open this thing, they put it in sort of an unusual area that actually makes a whole lot of sense. They do a lot of that with this car. Here is our rear area. As you can see, the acoustics are very different. With the rear seats deployed, and again, there is a lot of rear seat room for your rear passengers, which is really nice. Let's see, can I do this? There, okay. It's extremely well finished. We have really, really nice carpeting and everything else. Befitting the class, I should say. And here's where we get interesting. What's it needs? Well, that's all kinds of stuff in here. We got our books and our knowledges and things. But what's really fun for me, I was poking around in here earlier. Now there are your tire tools, but where's the spare tire? You have your jack, you have your lug wrench, you have your recovery hook that you screw in and use. But beneath here is, look at there, a temporary spare tire, but a good one, because it's big enough to handle that 21-inch wheel situation. Very important if you have all-wheel drive and you have a problem. You need to have something that's going to be able to not compromise or otherwise mess with your drivetrain as you're driving along with one odd-shaped tire. So they took care of all that for you, and you don't have to wait for the auto club to keep going to work. You just pull over on the side of the road, just like tradition calls you, and just change it out and off you go. It works great. What's our capacity here? God, I don't have my, hang on a minute. Well, I'll put it at the bottom. I think it's like 24 feet, cubic feet as you see it, and fold the seats forward, and I want to say 56. I should know this, but I literally can't get to the information at the moment. It's about 15 feet away, but I can't get to it. So there is utility, as I said before, and you can tell it's biased from the standpoint of they're thinking a lot more about your rear seats, passengers having room, than they are about your total cargo capacity with the seats deployed. But if you do fold those seats down, you have a lot of cargo capacity, which is a great idea. Nice, huh? Yeah, I tell you, beautiful car, beautiful utility, and then there is sport.
That's right, my friends. You find yourself on a sailing ship.
Or so says the Sounds of Nature. So welcome my friends, to the GV70 instrument cluster. Now, at the moment, I'm not sure what I've got this set on, but this is such a fascinating instrument cluster. So many different ways. Let me go to the setup menu, and I shall go to vehicle, and I shall go to heads-up display cluster. Here we go. And here's our 3D setup. And now, as of right now, the 3D display, turn that down a little bit. There we go. The 3D display, which is a simulated, it's a flat screen analog representation, right? But if you turn on the 3D, it goes to 3D, which is sort of amazing. So we'll go to maximum, and boom, there we are. Now, did you see anything on the screen? I don't know. I'll have to look later. But see that little red flash right there? It looks like the devil's eyes. Well, that is part of the system, I believe. I do believe they're looking at, that's part of the 3D actuator. I'm not real sure. But, oops, sorry for that. Are you okay? What we'll do is we'll turn the 3D system off and see if those lights completely disappear. And I believe they will. Yes, I think they have. So those two red lights, which you can't see, by the way, with your naked eye, but you can see it on this video camera, which is interesting. Let's see. How about we go to a cluster theme selection? Right now we're linked to our drive mode, but just for fun, we will delink it. This is theme A, theme B, which you will also find linked incidentally to the sport mode, as the red always seems to designate. And then theme C is that right there, which looks remarkably similar to theme A. But what we'll do now is I will link these themes, because I'm a linker to the drive mode, and the current drive mode setting is comfort. So anyway, what we have is a beautiful analog representation, I should say virtual analog presentation of the instrument cluster, and it's quite nice. See, you got your tachometer, woo, over on the right hand side there, and in the middle we have a trip computer. Now, what can we do with our trip computer? Right now we're accumulating data, which means it's like a regular trip computer, very easy to access, by the way. We can go down to attention level. Boy, that's controversial right there when it comes to me. Tire pressures. If you drive the car, the wheels need to be turning to, so the wheel sensors can sense the speed that each tire is turning, and if the tire is turning at a different rate than the other tires, you may have a tire pressure problem. That's how they all work. This is great fun. This is the drivetrain system. So if I was to put it into drive, like I have done, and I roll us forward a little bit, it's primarily a rear-wheel drive vehicle. That's how Genesis likes to roll, because it's a sports-oriented situation. So that's, you know, that can be fun information to have, to see what the drivetrain is actually up to. Then we have our oil temperature, our torque, our turbo. Hey, let's have some fun with the turbo here. Let's, anything gonna happen there? Woo! The torque's going up when I do that, and a little bit of the turbo down there. Again, more information at your fingertips, should you desire it. Oh, wrong way. Here's an area where you can insert a content that you like right there. And we'll go back to that's our drive information for the trip we're going on right now, which is, we're sitting here. And this is our accumulated information since I filled the tank. So, there you go. On the lower right here, this is to tell you that your engine auto stop start is in fact activated. You can deactivate it if you want to. If that is your desire, there is an off switch right over there. And look at there, it's gone. I will bring it back now. I will summon it forward. There it goes. So, one of the things I love about Genesis, and this goes for the whole Hyundai family of vehicles actually, is they haven't gone too far off the deep end as far as modernization, in the name of modernization, to make things much more difficult to deal with. Now, there's something else I should show you, just because we should be thorough, shouldn't we? Let's see. How about we go to our looking for it, looking for it, looking for it, looking for it. Heads-up display, there it is. There's our heads-up display. We will enable, bonk, and there it is. Can you read that? Can you see that? Well, that is your, I always have a hard time with this. That's your heads-up display should you decide to use it. I don't like them, and I don't use them. So I love the fact that I can turn it off, pink, just like that, and it'll stay off until I reactivate it. That's, believe it or not, there's been some makes of automobiles that it hasn't been that simple to do that. So as you can see, this is a very elegant and simple instrument cluster, and it's got everything you need, nothing you don't, which I really, really appreciate. Like I say, it's a Genesis thing. They thought this out, I feel, a lot better than a lot of other manufacturers have, as to what you need and what you don't. Our steering cluster here, we have this is our cruise control array right here. Here is an information thing that will give you, that's, for example, right there is our, if we were in adaptive cruise mode. Oh, smart cruise control not met, probably because we're in park. There's a compass, and they would also, excuse me, if you have a course set for your navigation system, it'll show that there as well. So that's a very simple deal right there. This is to determine if you would like to let the car steer itself when it can see the lanes on the other side, and it will try to steer you in the middle of the lane as well as keep you from running off the road. Again, it's an on-off thing, and I turn it on, and there's the little steering wheel up there. I turn it off. That will glow green when you're actually underway. On this side over here, we have a mode for different. This is, I believe, your radio modes and things. Yes, it is. And then we have, if you want to talk to the car, you press that, and your telephone. And this is a, you can assign different things to this particular star right here. If I hit it now, it has all these different custom settings. There we go. That you can select from to do whatever you'd like to do. So, what shall we do next? Over on this side, I've already shown you can turn off your traction control and your engine auto stop start, and we also have a hill descent control here. Should you find yourself on the precipice of a very steep precipice and you need some help with your ABS braking to help lower you down the incredibly steep path that you're going down with a little bit of ABS help, which is not a bad idea. It's all in the service of keeping you safe, which is what they all try to do. Some of it is over the top. Some of you would call it the nanny state. Well, it's not. It's a tool just like any other in the toolbox. So, our central display here is a beautiful one. I'll go back to the map, and there's our map, and these are previous destinations. You don't need to see that. My God, what is that? But there's our map. It's a widescreen Lawrence of Arabia affair, really widescreen, fairly wide, fairly narrow and fairly wide, and I think it's a real good operating type of central screen because it doesn't take up to, you could see over it. It doesn't dominate the cabin. It's like, I would describe it as pretty much the optimal size for something like this. And I apologize, this is flickering a little bit, I realize that. I could correct that, but I'm not going to do it right now because my time is very brief with you, unfortunately. Down here is our climate control system, and it's pretty much along the lines of most climate control systems on luxury cars, except for being, like I say before, a little bit more straightforward in its operation. So you can adjust your temperature up and down here. I have these synced together. There's two zones, left and right front passenger zone. You got your heated steering here. You got your let's put some seat cooling on there. You got seat cooling and seat heating. Very easy right there, easy to access. Boom, you're done. I love that. I truly love that. While we are on this lower thing, here's another thing that I love about this car. If you just want to go over to the media mode or the setup mode or the navigation mode, boom, just press the button and you're there. It's very easy to access. And again, I don't know why more manufacturers don't do it this way. They're making things more and more complex, where you have so many sub menus you have to go through just to get the regular stuff. Genesis doesn't do that. They make it easy for you. Now, drive modes. We have Snow, Eco, Comfort, Sport, and Sport Plus, and Custom. Now, how do we mess with Custom? Well, okay, let's see here. Let's see if we can figure this out together. We will now go to Setup and Device Connection, User Profile. Wait a minute, Vehicle, that's us. Driver Assistance, Drive Mode. There we go. Custom. Let's do that. And Powertrain, we can set it on. All 5 of the settings are available in the custom mode for you to pick that particular drivetrain mode. Then we go down here and go to Steering, and you can have it on Sport or Custom. I right now have it on Sport because I like a little sportier response. Down here we go to Suspension. It is now set on Comfort as opposed to Sport. And finally, we have the all-wheel drive system that can be Eco, Comfort, or Sport. So you have all this in your custom setting at your disposal, which I think is kind of terrific. I love how they do this because, again, it's just one of the modes you can pick. If you just want to let the car set everything else, you can go to Sport or Sport Plus or Comfort or Eco or Snow. So I usually leave it either on Comfort or Eco most of the time because with 375 horsepower on tap, it does just fine in the comfort modes and things like that. And the steering is responsive enough, and the nice part about the sport settings on this car is it's not a real punishingly stiff setting. It's actually pretty comfortable still. So that's awesome. We'll go back to our map setting here. So that's all that right in there. And then we go further down. Now we get controversial. This was the drive mode thing I was just using. This is our on-off with our radio sound system. You can actually tune right here. So instead of having the little knobs like that, knob like that, you have the little ones back here. This is your master controller. This is what you use to, in fact, determine what's going on here. If I want to do this or do that, I want to go home. Let's go home, see? And we go down, we move it to the left, we move it to the right, whatever we want to do. So that's all well and good, right? No problem, no problem. But if you continue south, you will find this is our transmission selector. Now, as you can see, the diameter of the two, I always complain about this, but I'm going to continue till they do something about it. The diameter is really close. Now, this has a nice knurled edge on it to help you pick between the two of these things. You have to have something that's going to be identifiable by feel. It's a pure tactile thing. So they do have some knurling on this thing, but to me it's still way too similar. And you select your gears very easily by just turning. That's reverse and neutral and drive. Very simple, right? And if you want to go into manual modes, you got your paddle shifters right here. 2, 3, 4, right up there. Through well, how many speeds we got here? Hang on here. I believe it's 8. Double check in. Yes, 8-speed automatic transmission. We'll leave that there for now. So anyway, I find that, and park is just the button in the middle. I find that a little goofy that these two are so similar to each other. I mean, if you own the car, you'll get used to it, and you'll probably never make a mistake after you get used to it. But I still think, why do it that way? I would prefer a different kind of shifter here that is much more easy to distinguish between this and your joy wheel here, your commander control or your iDrive or whatever particular nomenclature Genesis likes to use for it. So what do we have in here? We have, oh, there's my phone. Speaking of phone, here's our phone area, and if you want to charge your phone, you just drop it right in right there. And even though I am equipped with a case, this thing charges beautifully. I have no trouble with it whatsoever. You also have your 2 USB-A sites right here. You know, that's interesting. It's a 2025 model, and I don't see right off the bat a USB-C. There probably are in the back, I would think. Now here we have a fairly decent depth here. I'm going to continue to advertise for these people. even though I'm not being paid to advertise. I love this stuff because it's saved my bacon so many times. But there's a lot of room in here, considering it's not a massive console. And it's no fancy sliding or any goofball stuff here. Now, if you want your fancy stuff, that's pretty cool, because watch this. See, that's pretty cool. But otherwise, again, straightforward stuff, which I really, really like on a car, because there's certain things you need an automobile to do, and one of them is just be at the ready as far as if you want to change the setting of anything in the car, whether it's the climate control, performance, navigation, anything like that. It's very easy to access on this car. Brilliant. Now up top we have our panoramic roof. And now here it closes completely. Look at that. Ka-ta. If I do that, I believe that'll just go as far as I want it to, and then I'll stop it. Oops. There we go. So you got to play with that a little bit to get it just right to your settings desire, but overall it's a very, very good system, and you don't have a real problem with blazing sun coming through because it's tinted pretty dark. So all right, what say we go in the back seat? Before we do though, I don't have the Monroney here. This sure feels like leather to me. By the time you see this, I will have established what exactly this material is, and it's great heated and cooled. It's a pretty marvelous situation here. The seating, the support is excellent, and the comfort is excellent, and again, very, very easy to adjust the heating or cooling on it. So anybody that gets in this car, I think, is going to be comfortable right away, because it's a very, very good, straightforward design. Now let's check out that rear area here. This is, after all, GV70. It is, after all, a SUV. Let's check our door size. Almost 90 degrees, and it is fairly generous. Not huge. This is not a big vehicle though. But once you get seated, you realize this room is very, very good. You got a lot of headroom. You got a very decent amount of leg room here. And back here for your rear seat passengers. I don't know about this pink, by the way. I don't know about that. I don't know if I can adjust it. There's probably an adjustment somewhere, as it's LED, that you can change the color if you want. If not, I'm kidding, it's not that bad. It's more of a purple anyway. But you have this wonderful heated seat array here for your outboard seating. And then you have your plus and minus right here, which is your fan speed. Or you can put it on auto, as I have done. And it's set the same as it is in the front. You got your nice little vents here. And what else do we have that's great? Well, we got your window shades at the ready. And let's see how far down do you think the window goes? I don't think it'll go 100%. It goes about 90%. That's acceptable. We'll take that. You have very excellent, easy to access map lights, one on each side, naturally. And if you have the panorama all the way open here, you have a lot of, it seems a lot airier. Matter of fact, let me do that. Let's get airy. Yeah, the thing is, if you have the full, I gotta adjusting. That's what I wanted it to do. It knew. There we go. So now we have a little bit more of an airy feeling in here, although it's dark. I think there's a storm coming, to be honest with you. This is what I was playing with earlier. I love the fact that the driver can adjust the passenger seat here quite a bit with the access to these buttons on the side. I love that. I think that's brilliant, especially if you have a camera mounted up here like I did. Here we go with our armrest, and it is it is at a good high angle, and overall is a very comfortable position for your arm to rest. We also have a fairly good sized drive shaft tone here, but it's not too excessive. You can absolutely get 3 across back here. They'll be snug, but they'll be comfortable enough. It's just not, it's not
it's one of these cars that I love in that it's not that big on the outside, but it actually is surprisingly roomy on the inside. They've done a very, very good job of adjusting all these things to think about how much cargo room they want to have and how much rear seat room they balance all these different things, and I think they've done a very good job of balancing it, because your rear seat passengers are not going to complain about anything. I mean, it's a very, very nice, comfortable situation for them. So there's that, and there's that, and there's that other thing. And that's pretty much it, folks. This is a very, very straightforward luxury car that has everything you need, nothing you don't really. And in my opinion, is very well executed to live in the real world where we all try to visit occasionally.
Most highly recommended if you don't like deer flies, ticks, mosquitoes, all those little creeps that are always messing with you. They mess with you, and you don't want that. So here's our dial. We're going into drive. And with our sounds of nature, I don't know what you're saying that about. I think it's afraid of the grass. And who isn't? I mean, we're all afraid of the grass from time to time. It's just something that we have to deal with. As you can see, our low speed is engaging our front camera, which is nice because it helps give us more visuals. Could just look out the window, but you know, whatever. I like that a lot, actually. That's a feature I like. If you have a 360-degree camera system, most cars do this that have such a camera system. And the result, I think, is a positive one. Positive one. All right. It does very well on this unimproved roadway, this car. I think I mentioned that before. Have I been here before? Have we been here together? All right, here we go. So off we go. As you can see, the visibility out of this car is very good. The hood is low enough, and what we like to call the belt line of the car, which is the level that the lower windows fall to, is low enough too, so that you have nice visibility. A lot of vehicles these days, primarily worshiping at the altar of style. Oh, they're actually mowing. I don't freaking believe it. I can't tell you how much I've complained about this. It's taken them, well, the summer's going to be over before they're anywhere close to done. I think I'm going to do is this. Join with me. As we crash into a couple of vehicles here, but you know, why not? It's about time I crash tested one of these vehicles. We're going to go down this side road here, right here, right here. There we go. I'm funning with my. I actually know the guy driving that tractor. So off we go. Down a road that has no tractors on it yet, but at least they're freaking mowing. And I'm still on, I believe I'm still on Echo. Let's see, why don't we put her on Sport? Yeah, I was on Echo, we'll go to Sport. Incidentally, Sport Plus, and then there's Custom. Wow! Custom's insane. Oh, here's another mower. Well, that's good. We actually have 2 people out mowing. Did someone complain besides me? But they got me shoed in very nicely here. Well, I hope you enjoy this is how we, in the country, this is how we cut the verge here. Leave up the boom, move over. All right. Thank you, thank you. Well, hopefully they'll do some things they need to do, like go down the bridle trail. That really needs to be mowed and hasn't been mowed in 2 years. Used to mow it every year. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, where were we? Oh yes, we're in sport mode now. By the red instrumentation will it identify itself. And it's a real interesting change off of either Echo or Comfort, because it's much more aggressive. It's, like I said, you also have these 2 other modes. The custom mode, which has been demonstrated, is you have, I think almost everybody that would own one of these cars would play with that and select what they want. For example, if you like tight steering but you like a real smooth, cushy ride, you could have it on custom, and the ride will be set for cushiness, and the steering will be set for more aggressive activity. Oh, my traction control's off, so I can spin the wheels and stuff if I'm so inclined to do so. But why would I do that to these wonderful tires? I don't need to do that. It's much more, the thing about, I think where you feel it most in the sport mode is the transmission, because it shifts a lot more abruptly, and personally I don't think it's that great, the shifting in the sport mode. Now if we go back to Comfort, well, we were in Sport Plus actually, it's much better. And if we go one up to Echo really reduces the response from the gas pedal a bit, and it allows you to be a lot more frugal with your power delivery, which I recommend unless you have some particular need on a particular day that you want to scooty, go fast, then you have those settings available to you, and you can knock yourself out if you want to. But this is a little bit different, and it's very satisfactory in its own way. I find it fun and tasteful. Oh, there's something I want to inspect. I'm going to inspect it now, actually. Because we've had all this construction and all this very necessary road construction to fix a lot of stuff that's needed to be fixed. But it has kind of played havoc with local traffic. It's such an effortless little engine to propel this thing, this twin turbo. It seems very happy to just, anything you throw at it as far as hills and everything else, there's that wonderful torque, especially in the low to mid-range, that makes it short work of it all. It's really nice. They tuned it well. They really did. They did an admirable job at optimizing the situation. So are we going to be stuck forever with these speed bumps up here? That's something else. We have speed bumps now that are a real pain in the butt for everybody, especially people towing livestock trailers. the recently revamped pavement. This is nice. This ride is so comfortable. I would call it reasonable. It is a reasonable ride. Whee. Cornering is very flat for the most part. Very stable, very controllable, quite satisfactory in my view. This is one of those roads, some of these, it seems like road by road they're starting to repave around here. And you kind of wonder about some of these roads because this being New England, the property lines between various towns is crazy. You never know. You could be on the same road, you could leave the town and be in another town and then leave and keep going and end up back in that town you were in before. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of mad. But then again, find me a state in the United States of America that doesn't have some quirks, some things like that are strange and bizarre. Indeed. Indeed. You know, the first thing that I noticed was a kind of similarity to the rear suspension of our GV70 Genesis to other products under the big Hyundai umbrella. And one of the things that's really interesting to me is, well, first of all, we have the basics. You have a unibody construction chassis, and therefore you have a big subframe up here. Huge, huge, in fact. A superstructure. There it is, right there. Goes all the way across here to the other side. And this is what our suspension components, our multi-link rear suspension is attached to. And as you can see here we have our suspension, which is, I don't know if it's full on air. I'm not real sure what's going on in there. But the fact is, look at the diameter of this thing. It's quite enormous. And then look at the size of the drive shaft. Holy cow. That is a very, very stout drive shaft inside there. So, and this goes over, of course, to our all aluminum housing for our differential. And then here in the front, that's where our drive shaft is. It almost goes like a torque tube all the way to the front. Very, very well tucked away. And the actuators and everything else that determine when the what essentially the rear drivetrain is up to is all in this little side componentry here. So it's a very sophisticated rear suspension and a very sophisticated. What is that word again? Sophisticated. Say it with me. That in fact encompasses a lot of different drive dynamics in terms of left and right traction control, back and forth, how the particular drivetrain augments its power by, well, with most of the Genesis family, just like all the luxury car families in general, for the most part, it's a rear-wheel drive type of vehicle supplemented by front-wheel drive system. But this is a little bit different in that it's primarily rear-wheel drive, but it uses the front drivetrain quite a bit. And what's the purpose of all this? Well, the main thing is handling. And everything from power delivery to fuel economy is augmented by having an all-wheel drive system. And so to coordinate these things, to get the maximum amount out of it, that's the real trick, and that's where the beauty is in the details of our modern vehicles that have all-wheel drive, is because the best time to use it, the worst time to use it, in terms of performance, there's a great deal of, well, let's just put it this way. The car generally can dole out the power in a more balanced manner, which really helps handling and helps acceleration. Much better with a good all-wheel drive system with a lot of traction control units to it. What else do we have to show you here? Well, here's our front link right there. And up top here, I've showed you the drive shaft, which is there, and this is our top link. So it is a true multi-link suspension, and it has quite a bit of travel to it. I'll back up in a minute and show you how well this car maintains the geometry of the rear wheels, even though they're this one is in very high compression, and this one is in extension. So it's the true advantage of having an independent suspension on the rear of the vehicle, because it can help get the power to the ground very effectively. It can't, in pure off-road situations, you're probably better off with a straight axle in the back for a lot of different reasons, so I won't go into at the moment, but you usually get more travel out of that type of suspension. But with this suspension, you get a decent amount of travel, but you also get all this control, so that you have a really firm grip on the road, even in bumpy corners, while not compromising ride quality or control. So that's one of the big advantages to a vehicle like this. As you can see, it has a good amount of ground clearance. We have all this aerodynamics stuff put in here, more to streamline the undercarriage of the vehicle, rather than provide protection from rocks and things like this. But it does have good ground clearance, no question about it. And it maintains that ground clearance well, even though it is in fact the type of suspension that is much more tuned towards the road. It does a real nice job. As you can see, we got this crossover weld here between our twin pipes coming off our twin turbochargers, coming off our V6 powertrain up front. And all these things together combined to be a real Genesis thing. Here's a weird little thing right here, this little substantiator. That's what I call this. This is something to keep something stiff up in here, and so I call it the substantiator. And look at the wild course these exhaust pipes. Here's one, passenger side's right here. And then there's from the driver's side, it comes all in here. All in the purpose of tucking everything away as efficiently as possible. Now imagine, if you will, if this was the electric version of the 70 series, then this would all be just one big flat battery underneath here. You'd have a rear drivetrain that is completely electric, as is the front drivetrain. And everything's different as how it actually operates. But the beauty of what Genesis has done is they've given you a choice. If you want a conventional gasoline power plant, the car is completely set up for that perfectly. Or if you prefer, you'd like to go full electric, you can do that. It's also very, very well set up to have an electric power plant. And this is the future, folks. This is how manufacturers are dealing with a changeover to more electrified vehicles in their lineup. I'm not saying that electrified vehicles are going to completely take over, because they're not anytime soon, but it's nice to know that the manufacturers are thinking about what you might like in your garage. You got these little protection devices here underneath your rear A-arm, and that is to slide over rocks and things like that. That's the main thing I believe that's for, without getting the rock entangled into your rear suspension. So they do think about these things as far as your possible off-road explorations, and they respond accordingly. But anyway, let me show you now. Let's have a look here. Now, I want you to have a look. As you can see, we have a good amount of extension on the right side and compression on the left side, yet the vehicle is nice and level, and the geometry of the tires is still what it should be. It's actually a very, very nice rear suspension. Does many, many good things. And that's your GV70 for your entertainment pleasure. And, more importantly, your driving pleasure. Well, there we have it. Our 2025 GV70 Genesis 3.5T Sport Prestige all-wheel drive has a base price of $58,300. Now, as equipped, because we have the incredibly elaborate Sport Advanced package, plus the Sport Prestige package, which brings our total MSRP to $69,900. Not a cheap vehicle, but a very good vehicle. And by the way, you can tow 3,500 pounds with this vehicle, should you so desire. So overall, Genesis is continuing to make some really, really nice cars. I especially like this powertrain because it's very, very smooth, very tractable, and the mileage isn't even bad. I got about 23 miles per gallon, which is good for something that's got so much muscle. And it's also a very good size because you can park it easily. It's not a massive vehicle, and yet it has quite a bit of usable room on the inside. And then you got your all-wheel drive for your all-season comfort. And it has all kinds of beautiful Genesis touches, including, of course, the sounds of nature. So anyway, thanks for watching. When you get out on the roads out there, please drive carefully, and we will see you next time.
Do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube, you eat like the tube, you raise your children like the tube, you even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.